matchup. Arial Arise, Unemployment, and Tanner. I'll give you the honor. I know you love talking about Arial Arise. We'll start with their roster, how we're familiar with it, but, talk about it just a bit nonetheless.
I mean, this is a roster that's been in Challenge League for a very long period of time. You've got a lot of players in here who've been in Challenge League for a while as well. So Jay, he's a Season 1 winner, Stage 1 winner of last year. You've got Quartz, who's been playing previously on Gaming Gladiators, and he just made the roster jump over to Arial Rise to fill some of their fragging capability needs. You got Reed, Freak, and Tones being a new addition. This is his rookie breakout stage. And so far, from what we've seen from him, we've been pretty impressed overall. I have Quartz as my highlight player just because, him and I go way back. I used to coach him back on Mirage, and one of the standout things about him is he's an excellent entry player, and he likes to play an unorthodox kind of sledge entry where he's able to get a lot of soft pressure going, use the nade kills to give himself space, and to take really quick map control, similar to what you would see an entry player do, but he does it on the sledge roll.
Mm-hmm. And Unemployment, Connor, this is a team, I think, still trying to figure it out. Looking back to last stage, looking now to this stage 1 Playday in.
Yeah, for last stage, it was really hard for them to get any momentum because they had a different roster every single week. But nowadays, they should have kind of the right pieces all together, and they can sort of start meshing in. And one of the biggest things that I would like to see is for Mikey to pop off a little bit more. With Unemployment, they lost Hat and they lost CZ. We've both seen how great of fraggers both of those players are. It has left a gigantic gaping hole in the fragging capability of this Unemployment team. And now you have Mikey, who needs to step up, as well as Brios, who was brought in to really fill some of those shoes, which, as we saw last week, we didn't necessarily see, but there were still some positives we could take away.
Now, Arial Arise, Tanner, this was the only team to pick up a point last week in a loss. And you know what? Honestly, it was an 8-6 loss, as we said, in OT. I think that could have gone either way. Both teams were getting hot and cold over the course of that match. So maybe, as you said, minimize mistakes. Maybe just a little bit of corrections need to be made.
I mean, they would have gotten a full 3 points if Tones could hit a headshot on a stationary player. I don't want to throw him under the bus there, but that just seems to be the staple of Arial Rise these past 2 stages. They throw rounds that they really shouldn't be throwing, whether that means they have a man advantage, whether that means they're in a strong post plant position, whether that means they're just missing things because the pressure's getting to them a little bit. If they can shore up these mistakes, like Arial Rise is a team that we can expect to be at the top of the leaderboards, but until that happens, we can't really give them that credit, and they need to kind of get a swift kick in the butt to make that happen. Second thing I have them doing, though, if they're going to have success versus Carnico or Unemployment here, is they need to attack the drones. One thing we've seen from Unemployment is if you take them to a bigger map, you attack their drones, they really start to fall apart and waste their own time on the attack half, and then walk into bad crossfires or just unknown positions from the defenders. So if Arial Rise want to have success, I'm sure they know this, I'm sure they've got a really strong coaching staff that could identify this for them. Attack the drones, leave Carnico blind, don't take them to a map like Clubhouse where they feel really comfortable, take them to a bigger open map and they'll have a little bit more success.
Connor, so with Unemployment, okay, we've talked a lot about their roster and how it was, an absolute turnstile last stage. Even with it in place now, and hopefully that continues, we have no reason to think it won't. Is that enough? I feel like there still needs to be more for them to get the wins collected up.
Yeah, this is a team that kind of finds itself in the upset category where, they're kind of on the outside looking in. They're not going to be one of the mainstay teams, but they still do have potential. They have capabilities. And if they continue building upon the successes that we constantly see with them, they might just find themselves in a lot better positions. We saw some good executes. We saw some good roams. We saw some good entry play, as well as just overall team cohesion for this roster. But once again, it feels like just every single stage we say this thing about Unemployment is we've never seen it all at the same time. And hopefully with them having a just overall solid 5 players that are going to show up and scrim together and play that's on game day every single week, they should be able to finally get these building blocks up and make somewhat of a tower instead of just kind of knocking it down and rebuilding it every week.
Well, it's funny because what we've been saying that for 5 stages now going into last year since what is it? Was it, correct me if I'm wrong, Livid? Like going way back,
like so long ago.
We're always like, oh, they're on the cusp. They're on the cusp.
And it's just 6th stage of us saying this now.
But it's gonna happen. It's they're gonna come together. Okay, Tanner, let's get into the map veto. I'll bring it back to you for this one.
Okay, so going into the map, Vito, these two teams, they kind of line up in a nice way. We see a lot of team Aerial Rise liking to play Clubhouse, Cafe, Theme, Oregon, Villa, and out of those that matches up with the side of Unemployment, you've got maps like Theme Park and Clubhouse and Villa that really kind of line up really nicely here. Going in here though, you're going to see the Oregon bands. That's another one of those comfort picks for the side of Carnico. Border, another comfort band, and I believe it just leaves up Clubhouse and Theme Park. Now, last time these two teams played, they played on Clubhouse, and Arial Rise was able to win an overtime win versus Clubhouse 8-6. So going to a map like Theme Park, I think they just want to get the full 3 points here, and that's why they would choose to go to a bigger map. Like I said, if they attack their drones, if they just play the time and space that they can, they're going to have a lot of success versus a side of Unemployment.
This is an interesting one, Connor, because they seem to opt away from the frequalizer and go to a little bit more fun of a map. This is 3 pretty fun maps in a row now.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a bunch of changes here and there, and we actually have 2 people. We have Cookies as well as Fellow going for a bit of an underdog pick, but I'm agreeing with you, Tanner, completely. I think that going to a big, wide open map like Theme Park that's a little bit more complex definitely leans towards the side of Aerial Rise. It does open the possibility for, to shoot some drones and run away. We saw Aqualix absolutely obliterate One Shot last stage by using this strategy, so we know it works. This is not us just, making something up. And those issues should be completely exacerbated for a team such as Unemployment that relies upon drone intel even more heavily. So this is definitely Aerial Rise's game to lose.
Okay, I'll let you speak. We've done enough speaking for Cookies so far, but I think we can progress it a little bit more, Tanner. If Unemployment's going to do this, how are they going to do it? Even though I believe you, I don't think they will.
They need the rookies to show up in a big way. They need Brios to kind of come in and put up the numbers of why he was brought in to CL in the first place. He's going to need to be able to just shut down Freak. And the other thing they really have to do is they need to capitalize on the mistakes that Aerial Rise will probably make and make sure that they shut down and take the rounds that Arial gives to them. If they could do those 2 things, they have a chance of, maybe squeaking out a win here. I don't want to put it against them because we're on Playday too. Like, this team's had a lot of time to prepare. They could have just had a bad week last week. They might have a chance.
Do you think if we do see the upset and we see Unemployment taking it, do you think it's going to be more on the side of Unemployment stepping up to the plate, or do you think it'll be more likely to come because of Aerial Rise mistakes?
I hate this question because it doesn't give credit to either team. It always paints one team in a bad light, and then if the one team wins, then it paints the other team in a bad light. I think both teams need to kind of step up to the plate. I do believe if you're looking on a pure metric side of things, of which team should be performing better based on the caliber of players they have, I will give that edge to Aerial Rise. But that being said, we haven't seen a lot from from Unemployment this stage and how they want to play with their new roster pickups. This could be very different. And they might have just had a bad week last week. So they need to step up against a team like this if they want to manage to scrape away any of these points.
We do know from the history of Unemployment, when that core is popping off, that team at times has been absolutely unstoppable. So, I mean, there's no reason to say we won't see a third quote-unquote upset of the day. We're just going to have to find out with an actual matchup. Going to Theme Park, Aerial Rise, and Unemployment.
Welcome back, everyone. Speaking of upsets, I'm still Harrison, but I don't have John next to me anymore. It's Carter. We're gonna have a lot of shakeups in between duos this stage. It'll be real fun. But Carter, can you believe it's week 2 and we've already seen both Sky and we're about to see Theme?
Honestly, no, if I'm being totally frank. I mean, it's stage 3. I know of Challenger League, but it's also Challenger League. We joked for a long time that it felt like we only played 4 maps, and when we expanded to 9, I still expected to see only 4. But no, second Playday, we've seen Sky today and Theme Park today as well. I am pleasantly surprised, but emphasis on the surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that's a little bit surprising is the fact that we're going to Theme Park. If we take, again, I'm not looking at this stage yet because we've only had one Playday. Last stage's stats, Unemployment banned this map 4 times. Never played it. Aerial Rise has 1 play where they beat One Shot 7-5. But Carter, they banned it 8 times.
That's a lot.
They did not want to play this map until that the final game of the stage came around against One Shot. Plus the fact that even if Aerial Rise does play this map, I feel like it just goes into their corner a little bit more, like the analyst has said, especially with the droning woes that we've seen from Unemployment for the past like year.
And more on that as well. Not just that Unemployment have suffered some woes when it comes to their drone economy, but also when they have succeeded, it's been on maps that flatten sort of the skill between both teams, like a map like Clubhouse or a map like Oregon. So going to a theme park that can be a little bit more intricate, not the most intricate in the pool, but definitely more so when you compare it to a map like Clubhouse or like Oregon. This is looking like, at least in theory, how we might picture it in our heads, that it would be in Arial Arise's corner, like you said. The ban phase has transpired, by the way, as we were talking about that. See Nook and Ying taken off as the attacker bans, and Azami and Mira taken off as the defender bans, but I highly doubt any surprises, I suppose, seen by any four of those being taken off the board.
Yeah, what does surprise me a little bit is Theme Park with all 4 hard breachers still available, so that might alleviate some pressure from the attack. And to your point as well, not only is Theme Park a little more complex, it's just big.
It is kind of big.
It's just a big map.
Large map.
Which means that your drone work is going to be accentuated even more. So I'm a little worried for Unemployment in that sense. Plus, we know Arial Arise can really take advantage of the lack of drone work with guys like Freak, with guys like Quartz, guys who will just sit there and wait for an opportunity. So the map about to be underway. We're seeing Throne as our first defensive site because why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
One of the best sites on the map, used to be considered one of the best sites in the game. That's where we'll start off.
And to take what we talked about in terms of drone work, and, well, I was going to say put it into potential specifics for what we could see in the round, but as you can see, you're already seeing some play from what I was going to refer to, is these Valkyrie cameras. Tones putting one in the doorway, leading outside to the Dragon balcony early on, doesn't find anything, picks it back up, but Unemployment's drone work will be all that much more important because Arial Arise are bringing that extra bit of intel with those Valk cams, and if Freak wants to start getting aggressive and going for flanks, if those Valk cams are not dealt with, Unemployment will certainly have a very large problem on their hands. But 45 seconds now in. Unemployment starting on the Dragon side. C4 goes out. They evade death for the time being. We'll need to make sure they clear out this stairwell, but it seems like Arial Arise might have just done the job for them.
And already, look at the drone counter. 3 drones lost, and only now are you moving into the building. I guess you've got control for it, but still, those drones are going to be so important, like you said, because the Valkyrie is being bought by the defense, so you have to make sure that your intel is just as good, if not better, than the defense. But Arial Arise are probably going to be playing this Mute Mozzie, maybe even throwing a Vigil in there, a lot because they know how weak the drone game is from this team. And already, bit of a retake back upstairs to the top floor. Tra coming by yellow, though, will get an easy pick on a Freak as he just kind of looks the wrong way. There was a yellow ping on the Quartz, but it's stale info as he's since moved. There are people hunting for him, though. One right on the other side of this wall. One backing off towards Bunk, but he catches the back of Whitlock. The drone coming too late. We've evened up 4-4.
It seemed like Tra generally knew of Freak's position, able to get it, but once they lose track of Quartz, that's where problems start arising. Almost gets a second, but just him and Brios exchange damage both ways, and Brios finally finishes him off with a grenade. Unemployment taking the man advantage, 4v3, only 1 minute left. They've acquired that vertical control, but they were... Interesting C4 from Karn right there. It's going back to a 3v3, but there is still a player, Reed, on Bandit. Offsite inside a drug right now. Unemployment have some good control on the vertical. There's a 3v3 as well, but do they know about the Bandit offsite?
I was a bit worried for a sec, and I was about to say, oh, here comes the vert, no C4 to counter, but it turns out the C4 was actually pre-placed. So, well done to Arial Arise to once again equalize the man count. 35 seconds left, the time whittling away, only 3 drones remaining. For Unemployment, actually only 2 left that are still controllable. And I believe the white dot, right? The white dot means they're already somewhere out on the map. So there's really none left for these site players. Unemployment might largely be walking in blind, but they do hear someone right by this drone hole. The nade goes in, but the player's since moved. Down goes Brios. Tra the next to fall. A pistol out for Reed. And Reed Adams cleans up the round with all 3.
So Reed was off-site for a good portion of that mid-round, but rotates back into split later on, and this is where Unemployment going to that 3v3, maybe wishing they were a little bit more decisive on that roam, or took it a little bit quicker, might have or maybe been a little bit better for them in the end. They decide to push down arcade stairs and move in through split. They aren't able to make that vertical control work, so because they've dedicated 2 players to that side and then 1 player watching the door at bottom dragon, when they push in, they've got to be really, really lucky or really careful that they win those gunfights. And in this case, they didn't. They fall to the crossfire. Maybe that'd be better if you have someone on the hatch, maybe able to look down in those doorways, toss a grenade or 2 to make that work, but combination of low time and just not having enough players to pressure those 2 players on those split doorways. The undoing for Unemployment round 1.
Not only enough players, but losing Carnage B as well, the sole hard breacher, means that you can't substitute more players for open angles.
Yeah.
So that loss really, really, really hurt. And we're actually not going to have any hard breach at all, as Karn swaps off Thermite onto Flores. So they're going to attack Bunk with 0 hard breach.
It is a little bit risky not having any hard breaching, but it is still possible. He is bringing the Flores, and that brings a whole hell of a lot of utility that you can use to destroy the deployable shield that Quartz is bringing, any ADSs or Ramais that Arial Arise place on windows. So not having, say, an Ace or a Hibana to open up some more angles can make maybe getting angles on position like the Break Repel, looking into sight a little bit more difficult, but there is still a lot of utility. 2 sets of nades and 4 Rotero drones to clear a lot of these players out. And if Unemployment are trying to win this off of gunfights, make good use of players like Tra and Brios' mechanical skill if they try to flood into the building or on top of yellow stairs, for example, it could still work, but it is a little risky.
And it does look like there's no hard breach because they're mainly focused on the cafe and below side of things, which you don't really need hard breach for. So now I do understand the decision, but still a bold strategy comp. Let's see if it works out. First nade goes up below, but I believe caught by a magnet. No one there really to find in the first place anyway. No one really to find on the downstairs at all, I don't think. I think everyone from Arial Arise is either on site around it or at the very least upstairs. Yeah, everybody's up here, the farthest away from the site being the Jaeger of Freak kind of in waiting, who's now coming back, and Quartz watching the drone hole at the top of main stairs. So a lot of free map control for Unemployment, but not a lot done with it now a minute 40 into the round.
See 1 player now move in the cafe, a couple players down below as well. I was about to say, Quartz needs to be careful. Players might start coming up these arcade stairs. It's just a Yana clone. A bait for the time being. Nobody moving up the stairs just yet. That seems like where the first bit of action is going to be with the players in arcade. You can see the sledge prepping to open that door as well. He'll start creeping on in and hit it from the back.
Brios down, Whitlock down as well. The shotgun destroys Tra. And now, after that scuffle, it's a 2-on-4. Make it a 2-on-3 as Karn comes in and cleans up the main stairs player. Looks like Whitlock is actually going to get rezzed, and why not? They have enough time to do it, but in this pause, the defense trying to recollect themselves. Tones now inside of Cafe, misses the initial shots, but still gets Mikey before he can react. Now they know exactly where Carnage B is. They probably called out that res. The Flores drone comes up. Sure, that's going to force the bandit to move, but that's really it. He still gets the kill on Whitlock. And Karn's now alone in a 1 versus 3. Spots the Jaeger, gets 1, but can't get the second. Reed Adams once again ends the round with a multi-kill, and it's 2 in a row for Arial Arise.
The overall strategy wasn't the problem for Unemployment. We've seen plenty of teams just try to win a bunks and daycare attack by flooding in through arcade, cafe, up yellow stairs, so on and so forth, and relying on frag grenades and Rotero drones to clear out a lot of that utility. But it still is a difficult strategy to work, especially if you lose those opening engagements. Take Quartz, for example, just moving it, or not Quartz, excuse me, wrong team. The Sledge on the previous round and moving in from the back, trying to take office by himself. Loses the fight to the shotgun because there are 2 players over there. You can have one concerned about the players pushing the other anchors on site, but he's still more than able in the 5v5 to focus on watching bathroom and make sure that Tra doesn't push on in. Furthermore, the rest of Unemployment, they're able to clear out some of that utility, then just send it in through arcade and send it in through cafe with no player removed and it just being a 5v5, no Ying on the board to blind anybody on Arial Arise, only relying on some flashbangs, which might have been used to clear ADSs and magnets. You have to win those early gunfights, and the Arial Arise instead won the first 2. Very difficult to come back from.
The opening engagements really working out well for Arial Arise. And they did lose the opener, of course, last round in Freak, but were able to respond in kind. And now, Carter, we have a clash. I think this is the first... Oh,
Nice.
I think this is the first time we're seeing Clash this stage. If it is, shout out to Arial Arise for being the first ones to bring it. We saw their Freak somehow... I'm more surprised that Freak didn't die.
That's what I was thinking. Like, taking a shotgun that close? How is he not smoked immediately? I mean, we saw Trot die to a shotgun farther away than that last round.
Yeah. Well... Plus, it was to the side of the head, too. So either way, interesting to say the least, but he's still alive. I'm sure he's thankful for that. And, you know, if you land the headshot before your opponent can fire off a bullet, doesn't really matter what HP you're at.
Well, we can see the clash looking on towards Cash and Dragon side, which is where Unemployment are deciding to attack from. Rotating things in the previous round with the new site in mind. See if this clash is able to stall things later on in the round, as I imagine some players, at least, well, in this case, bottom Dragon, as it's Brios, who has moved in and taken that position from the defense. He's got to be careful. Some potential players, I believe there was someone down below. Yes, Court's now currently playing inside of Throne and Armory, so not getting too aggressive and might just rotate back instead. So halfway into the round, this immediate position, this forward position inside of Radar, Cash, and Dragon is secure for Unemployment for the time being, but Arial Arise have a lot of angles and a lot of operators who can at least make their job and their position a lot more uncomfortable.
And of course, Reed Adams is on the Clash, and he is not known for overextending, so he's going to be backed off in that site playing off his team, but as Jay tries to peek around him, he'll go down. Trying to answer with a nade, instead sends it 3 feet in front of him, and Freak, like I said, doesn't matter how much HP you're at if your opponent doesn't shoot back. Whitlock is now down on the floor. Jay and Freak both down. Tones comes in to respond. Technically a 3 versus 3, at least until one of these players can get res, but there's Card with the finisher, but that alerts Tones to his location. A beautiful reaction, and now Brios and Tra alone make that just Tra staring down a Clash.
Yeah, Tra on 1 HP as well. Oh no, is Reed gonna do it to him? No, thankfully doesn't try. Well, it gets technically a 2-piece, but one was Jay bleeding out on the floor from earlier on in the round. Crazy how Arial Arise was on the verge for 3v3, and only just now do they lose one of the players that was the first player not only to take damage, but also, well, technically not the first player. Freak got hit by a shotgun in the prep phase, but the first player to receive almost lethal damage in the round. Ooh, Tra finds another. Now it's a 1v1. Still only 1 bullet away from death and running out of time. Courts can easily clean that one up. Good try by Tra, but unfortunately, it's 3 rounds in a row for Arial Arise.
You always got to root for the clutch attempt when it happens.
That's true. I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, thank God we had the slow-mo replay on Freak getting tanked in the prep phase.
I feel like that line in particular is something that we've said since Tra has joined Challenger League. Oh, nice try, Tra. It's like he's always left. He's always left in those clutch situations, and always is like 1 or 2 kills away from getting it. So again, like you said, beautiful attempt, just not exactly looking the right way in that final fight with Course. And you gotta hand it to the Clash play from Reed, keeping the entire attack and control room at bay despite his support being on the floor, and Tones destroying everyone in his path with the SMG-11, getting I think 2 or 3 kills in that round. Between those 2 guys and Freak's leadoff kill, Unemployment seemed like they just couldn't do anything. They really didn't have anything to deal with that Clash, save, I guess, shooting an air jab directly at her. But we saw they never did that. So, beautiful Clash play, beautiful SMG play from Tones, and now 3 defenses in a row from Arial.
And 3 defenses in a row means they now get to go back to Armory Throne, which is typically the preferred site. So big things in this round was, well, or potential big things, was Tones on the Valkyrie, giving a lot of intel to Unemployment, but also, about halfway through the round, Karn dying to, I believe, a C4, Harrison, if I might be wrong there, but he was dead.
Yes.
We can at least be certain of that. Yes, he died to the C4. Not having hard breach means that Unemployment were just forced to walk into the angles held by Arial Arise, mainly through split. They ended up dying as a result, compounded by some losses earlier on. We'll have 2 hard breaches, Thermite and Hibana. So even if one goes down, there's still some potential angles to be opened up. That could be the difference maker if Unemployment maybe even suffers some of the losses they did earlier on.
I just realized as well, that last round was Tones and Reed's first deaths. The fact that they are both leading their team in kills and also hadn't died until last round is phenomenal. And I'm sure they'll be looking to continue their success. I mean, Reed had a big standout round with that Bandit. We just saw Tones go ham with the SMG. And so far, I've been very impressed with Tones as the rookie in Challenger League.
Yeah, Tones hasn't been having a too bad time so far. It is only the second game, so stats are always going to be, at least usually a little lopsided one way or the other, but he's not had a bad start so far by any stretch of the imagination, especially in comparison to maybe other players or other teams so far in the first two Playdays.
He was 9 and 11 in the loss to Aqualix, which again, as a support player, not terrible.
And it was a very close game between those two teams as well, so always going to usually have a lot of deaths in the process, especially if it's a very rough game. Minute in so far, by the way, and we've already had some explosions. C4 gone out by the defense, doesn't kill anybody, and it's Tra who opens things up on the Freak. Similar to last time, actually, the exact same opening duel as last time. Freak was playing on the yellow stairs. Tra moved in and was able to take him off the board. But then it was the roamers after, namely Quartz, who still provided some trouble, but this time he's downstairs. Not even something Unemployment needs to worry about on that second floor.
So no trade, at least for now, despite the defenders getting kind of aggressive by Split. They've got Valkyrie cameras upstairs, and they will spot the Sledge before he very swiftly deals with that black eye camera. It seems like the defense isn't too keen on that roam. Like we saw in that initial round, just kind of staying tucked away in the site. Again, another C4 kill, this time onto Brios, though. So I'm sure Unemployment may be counting their lucky stars that was not their hard breach, although they do have the redundancy this time. They've learned their lesson. They're bringing 2. Great spot from Quartz, but unable to land the bullets. A lot of them hit the bars, and Tra gets his second kill of the round, giving Unemployment, I think, their first man advantage since the opening pick in round 1.
They have the man advantage, but can they convert it? Still players inside the site. No C4s remaining, and Unemployment taking some more time to use to open up these vertical holes. And Cross still has 2 frag grenades, so they don't get too ahead of themselves, and they want to use the nades. They certainly can, but Tra, he's been very keen to use that L85 instead.
Fortunately, the bars not facing the right way to see that corner. Jay. Shotguns pushed out the Dragon Door to shotgun Mikey, but we got info on Reed Adams. He's the next to go down thanks to Carnage B moving into the site, getting that plant down as well. Jay, no C4, means he's going to have to do some retake shenanigans. There's a drone right at his feet, spotting him out. Wall is open. Doesn't know if there's anyone lockers. He'll line up 2, but only be able to kill 1. Small magazine of the SMG-11 dumping away and leaving Carnage B alive. This upstairs angle likely to be the death of him, and it is Tra. 4 massive kills to give his team their first point.
Look at that. When they have some of that hard breaching alive, they're able to open up a more direct route into the site. Things work out a lot better for Unemployment. Admittedly, with Tra able to do quite a lot more work in that round as opposed to round number 1. Not only able to get the opening pick, but also via some of those vertical holes, continue to add to his kill count over the course of the round. Didn't even need those 2 frag grenades to toss down into the site. Just did the work with his L85. Excellent recovery by Unemployment, taking some time after that tactical timeout, but also importantly in game, keeping some of those key operators you need on a thrown attack alive. Arial Arise will go for a retry of the site, maybe thinking that if they're maybe a little more aggressive on the roam, Harrison, not just relying on those C4s, but trying to outgun players like Unemployment, the attack will have a lot more trouble moving into the site. And that just might be the case, because Arial Arise have been playing pretty passive on this defense. Backing off early on, not contesting cash or an initiation and office too heavily. Maybe this time, put some more obstacles in Unemployment's way.
Yeah, I think the important thing here is to try and get those fights, get those even 1v1 fights and win them, or at the very least just waste time. Because Unemployment, right, like we said, are a team who's not known for their drone work and who's not known for their time management, but boy, did it feel like they had the whole entire round to work that vert. Well, again, well done to them. Mikey now bringing out IQ, probably to spot out not only the Valcams, but also Jammers and Cade Claws. That's going to be a new utility that Unemployment have to deal with. And despite Thatcher being left up, he's not being taken. So Unemployment, if those Cade Claws are placed correctly, might have a bit of a difficult time opening those walls.
certainly maybe a little bit more trouble than there was before. Mikey asking for a rehost, but I was going to say it's, oh no, you will have a tech rehost. I thought maybe it was a little bit too late in the round. It might be denied, but nope, we will have it instead. And we don't, unfortunately, get to see much. I mean, given the lineup that Unemployment were going for and the success they had on their previous throne attack, I imagine they'll likely still try to go for opening up that wall bottom yellow and moving in through there. I was very excited to see if Arial Arise were going to get a lot more aggressive on that roam, because they made some adjustments on the on-site utility, like you just mentioned, Harrison, but I wanted to see if they'd hold on to those positions a little bit more fervently.
Yeah, I glanced back at the Queen feed right before everyone left, and it appeared as if they were going to extend that roam. Reed Adams on the Cade was in Drug Lab. I believe both Quartz and Tones were headed upstairs, so I think you're right. I think they did want to put more of that pressure on Unemployment. I like how they're still bringing that Mozzie Mute combo. Unemployment's drone game was a little bit better last round. I think not only will the added roam presence, you know, maybe drop bodies for Unemployment, maybe waste more time, but probably also waste more drones.
And as we've mentioned time and time again so far, the more damage they can do to those drones, even if Unemployment were bad at it, those entries, Rios, for example, Tra, who's definitely been the standout performer in the past 4 rounds, will have a lot more trouble getting those kills. And we don't have the stats in front of us, but if you were to look, or if you were to scroll back in the VOD and take a second look, Tra is outperforming the rest of his team by a wide margin in these past 4 rounds. Of course, I believe he's at 8 kills right now. Half of them did come in round number 4, but he has so far been one of the main entries. When Unemployment have won an opening duel, let's check. What do you know? He's been the one to get the kill in the past 4 rounds. So trying to nullify that and make his job a lot harder, we'd have to then see Unemployment or somebody else from Unemployment step up to the plate.
Yeah, not only is he does he have 8 kills, but the next teammate in line, I believe, is Karn with 3. So he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I think Brios only has 1, Mikey has 2, Whitlock has none, and he's on Zoe. And you know, Whitlock being on Zoe and Brios on the Iana, you know, the dynamic there is of course going to be Brios on the primary, Whitlock behind him. They've got to be more potent on this entry. Unemployment's whole game, the reason why they're using so many of these drones is to get info on those roamers, but those roamers, with the exception of that previous round, are not dying. Unemployment are not getting the man advantage that they're looking for because Whitlock and Brios right now aren't being as fierce as Unemployment need them to be, and that's another thing that kind of happened in their previous game last week against, what was it, against Aqualix? What was it? Sorry, they didn't play Aqualix. I'm looking at the wrong team. I was looking at Arial Arise.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I can't remember who they played.
Unemployment, they played Harrison. I got you right here. They played One Shot.
That's why. I didn't scroll far back enough in my notes. Yeah, they played One Shot. Brios finished 4-8. Whitlock did a little bit better. He went 5-6. But Brios finished 4-8. And sure, he's a rookie. We're going to cut him some slack. But 1 kill right now in Theme Park is not what your team needs, especially when you're going against Tones and Freak, who are having a day, or sorry, Tones and Reed, who are having a day, and Freak, who will likely heat up later in this match.
And even if maybe they want to just allow Whitlock or Brios to play a little bit more passively, then see a little bit more action or activity trying to cut off the rotations of those Arial Arise roamers, because Arial Arise they're not giving map control, they're not really fighting very hard for it. They're keeping themselves on the bunk daycare side on the throne defenses and then rotating back to site later on and then trying to do some of those work with the C4s. Maybe see someone go to Drug Lab, air, arrows earlier on, something like that. I mean, they're kind of giving them a lot of tips after they did just win a round, but I think a lot of us are assuming, or at least Harris and I are assuming, that Arial Arise are going to make some adjustments on this roam, so trying to think ahead and see what Unemployment can do to meet those changes.
Now into the game we go. Again, if you have the memory of a goldfish, I will remind you that they were on Throne. They were on Throne right when we rehosted, and of course the rule is if we rehost after the round has already loaded in, you need to use same site, same ops. So that's what we're seeing. The IQ still there for Mikey. Going to be looking for those Valk cams, maybe the jammers and Electro Claws through the floor as well once they get that top floor control. But again, I'm looking at Brios and Whitlock and I'm hoping that they can alleviate some of the backpacking from Trop.
But of course, it's a best of one, so if Tra just keeps backpacking, he can do it consistently on the attack. I guess it'd be fine. If he just keeps being the best one in the lobby, maybe it'll work out. But yeah, definitely the safe bet is having two players who seem to be, at least based on their operators, on the entries, be a little bit easier. It is being thrown. Arial Arise will have Tones start out earlier on this Dragon side, try to gather some intel on these windows, peek out of the Dragon balcony, maybe go for a spawn peek. Are a couple players spawning on this side, but ooh, Outcam is spotted and shot. Tones still has one in his pocket. He saved two to play aggressive on this balcony, and even with his camera shot, he's not leaving just yet.
It's interesting how they're playing this aggro Vault game instead of sitting those cams static. He's actively playing with them to gather info to facilitate an aggressive play. We just saw him throw out his last remaining one in pocket. I think it went onto that Dragon Valk. Not quite sure. No, it has not been shot. Mikey does spot it. We'll drone it out again. Okay, so it didn't go outside. It's right on the, it's on the, I was going to call that the Dragon Valk, but I already called the outside Dragon Valk. So I guess that's top Dragon. That's where he threw that last remaining Valk cam. And I'm sure Unemployment are going to be able to deal with it. And look at this, Carter. A minute has passed. Unemployment have only lost one drone.
Very nice to see, and they even have those Yana clones as well to use as backup info, or if they don't want to use a drone, if they want to set some up in flanks instead, use that Yana clone to maybe guide Whitlock in or guide Tra in, since he seems to be the more aggressive person on Unemployment so far throughout the first 4 rounds. Whatever it is, Unemployment have gotten the control that they've gotten reliably in the previous 2 throne rounds. Initiation office has never been the issue for them. Well, there haven't really been many issues. But if they want to push further, they want to deal with these roamers, they only have half the round to do it now. Brios is quick peeking. He's looking on in. Tra also on the cafe side. Nobody watching down below as Courts and the rest of the roamers rotate back for free.
And this is a bit of a symptom of that aggressive Valkyrie play. You don't have as much info spread around the map, so a lot of these C4s are completely blind. One of them will miss. That's Reed Adams. Oh, I don't have to say Reed Adams anymore. Wow.
You don't. Reed Sync is gone.
That was Reed's. Quartz and Jay still have them in their pocket, their respective pockets. Tones also consistently been running impacts rather than a C4 on Valkyrie, I assume for the possible impact trick on those thrown walls. If Unemployment get down to actually breaching them, Karn ends up opening, I think, the soda machine wall? So he uses one of his... no, okay, it was the hatch. Sorry. I am tripping. So he opens the hatch. He's got one left. He can open one of those thrown walls. And Brios gets that opening pick. There we go. That ferocity that I was looking for. He'll pick off Reed.
Only 20 seconds left, though. They've got that first pick, but Arial Arise are all set up in their positions onto the site, and Yellow Wall is not open. Unemployment do not have that avenue in. Karn will put the thermite charge on the wall. It's starting to get opened up, but oh no! It's destroyed. Impact tricked in the process. Unemployment hold on to the man advantage, solidify it thanks to Mikey. Only 2 seconds remaining. Reek in the 1v3. Nobody putting the bomb down, but they still get the kills in time. Unemployment cutting it extremely close to get the W.
Wow. That was crazy. So Unemployment take a million years to clear that top floor. I don't know if that was just a symptom of maybe there was Mute and Mozzie Pest up there delaying them. Maybe Tones getting so aggressive kind of spooked them into being slower to clear. Maybe their setup for the execute just took a really long time. But either way, they spent a vast majority of that round just walking around and droning up that top floor. Then Brios rotates down the drug, gets that opening kill. But the impact trick on Yellow Wall, that should have been the round-winning play. Realistically. That will usually just straight up win you the round. Especially because what? There was 15 seconds left, like 10 seconds left when that impact trick came off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when we saw Karn start sprinting over to the Dragon Door, I think the timer went red. So there was like 10 seconds left when that impact trick went down. And yet they still win? Because they just win all the fights? That cannot be allowed to happen if you're Arial Arise, especially with how the match had been going in those earlier rounds. You cannot let that happen, because not only do you give away a free round, but you allow Unemployment that momentum, because it really seemed like they heated up.
And 2 very solid wins on one of the more preferred sites on Theme Park. Arial Arise Down to the point that they're just going to go to bunks and daycare, the second site that they won. And to be fair, they still won fairly solidly. At least on Throne, Unemployment had to do work, and it came very close to them to get these 2 round wins, especially in round number 5. But on bunks and daycare, it was a lot of time spent clearing the defense's utility, and then flooding into Arcade and Cafe, in which Arial Arise were able to set a good precedent early on in the very quick bout of several engagements and get a man advantage and retain it for the remainder of the round and the remainder of the fight. A little bit different for Unemployment this time, though. No Flores on the board. Karn running with the hard breach this time, something that wasn't present on their previous bunks defense, and I believe Harrison and Osa as well, not something we saw all the way back in round 2.
And of course, they are bringing that hard breach because they're clearing from the cash side, so you can definitely bet on this reinforcement going down on Bunk, followed by the batteries from Bandit. This is why they've got those nades from Iana and Sledge, should they want to clear below. This is also why they've got that Twitch, and why they might have Osa for those EMPs. Plus, once you do open that Bunk wall, the Osa shields become oh so important. But that is tragic. Tones with the perfect rotation in the hallway, hears the vault, gets Karn, and now gets Whitlock. Freak as well with the double up, gets Brios attempting to trade. Mikey at least gets 1 kill for his troubles, but he's lost 3 teammates in the process, and Freak is looking for more. Shut down by Tra, a beautiful shot from the Sledge, but the damage has been done. You've lost your hard breach, you've lost the Osa. The meat and potatoes of this strategy is gone.
Have made it 2v3, made it much closer than it seemed. We were in danger of going up in a 2v5 for Unemployment, but they've at least killed Freak and Tones, who are the 2 players who are the cause of all of this carnage, no pun intended, on Unemployment. I know, quite funny. I really am quite something. But Mikey will take this time, smartly, drone things out, clear some more utility. With none of these angles open, I was about to say, all we'll have to see is likely try to make a lurk work up yellow.
They hear it? I can't tell by the way Quartz is playing if they heard it or not because of that barbed wire. They'll certainly hear him now, though, as he sends a nade into the bunk doorway. Sounds like it got eaten up by an ADS. Another one to follow. Almost catches Reed in the rotate, but they've got to fight a shield. Quartz wins 1, and Jay assists. Arial Arise make sure that the round does not slip out of their control and shut down Unemployment to take a 4-2 defensive half.
I don't know how much of a difference it would have made, but I think Tra maybe should have been a little bit more careful with how he was using those grenades. It seemed like even if he didn't have direct intel, he had a general idea that there might be somebody playing close on that daycare door. He was just tossing those nades without even really cooking them. Maybe if you hold back a little bit, cook it a little bit more, you get a 2v2, but then of course they run into the shield, and that's always going to be a difficult fight, but you're a little bit more careful and selective for that utility. Maybe you have another one for the shield. Either way, still plenty of things that went wrong earlier on in the round. First and foremost, Unemployment not droning out Tones, or even if they did, not having active intel on his position. Catches Karn, their only hard breacher, completely off guard. Then Freak rotates to help out the mute. Everyone on Unemployment is shocked by this, rushes to go and get the diffuser, and they're able to make it a 3v2 just by this play and opportunity given to them. As a result, getting a 4-2 half on the theme park defenses, and as Unemployment switches to that very side, they'll go down to Throne, just as Arial Arise did in their first round.
The issue with the Tones play wasn't even the fact that Unemployment, like, may or may not have been cognizant of Tones. Why don't you just have someone watching that hallway to begin with? Like, I feel like it's a very default thing to do, especially if Karn sees that big gaping hole to his left as he opens the door, or as he opens the wall. Why would you not just have someone there? Anyway, I digress. Oversight aside, Arial Arise up 2 rounds heading into their attack. They are bringing Ash, because Ash is back in the meta, which is real cool. Thatcher left up, and he is now being brought because secondary EMP is lowering his ban rate, and Dokkaebi for Reed to assist that roam clear.
Range some of those phones when you try to move into the building, catch any of those roamers. I'm sure Karn would have liked some Dokkaebi calls. His Tone swung that hole next to him, getting the shotgun kill. Would like to hear some sound cues that there was somebody there. Also something that Arial Arise will have at their disposal. Also want to see if Quartz plays Sledge the same way Tra played Sledge. That more for the gun and just moving on in, as opposed to the sledgehammer in some of those rounds. Quartz is sitting outside the building right now, and Whitlock on the defense at the forefront inside of Cash, looking into Top Dragon, but no one from Arial Arise really in the building so far. Holding out, waiting, droning, and clearing
What the
utility,
hell?
and, well, Tones goes for the drop, but Harrison, I don't know if I would have had the Thermite if we'd want to make that play.
That was crazy. Jay the next to fall to Brios. Port's the next to drop in, but Whitlock has the crossfire. Mikey finally dealt with by Freak, but again, I'm saying this for like the 3rd time in a row. At what cost? What a weird play. I'm sure Mikey is happy with his freebies. Also, you know, let's not get distracted by how weird that play was, because incredible team play from Unemployment. Just every angle seemed to be covered. Everyone had each other's backs. And, well, Dokkaebi and Ash. 2v4.
A hell of a combination of the 2v4. Use this final logic bomb. Try to find some intel on these remaining Unemployment players. You can rely, at least in assuming that most of them will be inside of Armory and Throne itself. The 4v2 not getting too aggressive, trying to rotate back. There is someone inside of maintenance. Freak will walk in. Will spot Whitlock. Not the most present utility, but does make the man advantage smaller for Unemployment. Still a 3v2, but not something exactly you would prefer going into the final 30 seconds.
Big thing is, well, neither of these players have hard breach, right? That round that Unemployment won without hard breach, they probably should not have won. And now the situation even less so for Arial Arise, because unlike the round Unemployment won, the man advantage not in their favor, not even. In comes one, in comes the other, and they are both dead. Unemployment take round number 7 to make Arial Arise's lead just a bit slimmer.
I mean, do we even like really need to say anything about that round? I
felt
feel like
there was a lull long enough for us to talk about everything.
Well, and also, I mean, we just saw it. Tones on Thermite on a Throne attack decides he's gonna be the one to ignite the firestorm of early entry engagements.
Attackers need to
The
locate
Thermite.
and defuse as many bombs.
Dropping and proning down the hatch. Yeah, it's a weird play, but if you're really going to commit to it, the hard breach is the guy you have doing it.
I love how Quartz came down after him. Why would you not have Quartz be the guy to do that? Like, why would you not to begin with, if the whole play is drop the hatch and come through Cafe at the same time, why not, 1, wait for the Cafe guys to push up longer, and 2, like, hot drop the sledge? So they're not, you know, already watching the hatch after it's open. Because, you know, who hot drops the hatch? But because the hatch was already open, it's like, you know, now it's an avenue.
Bomb located
I
by
don't know.
attackers. Attackers are moving to defuse
That was
the bomb.
interesting to say the least.
That was not the attack I would have liked to see Arial Arise start off with.
Maybe
Not a
it was
good
the one we
precedent
needed
set.
to see.
No, I'm gonna disagree with that one. I didn't need to see it. I'm okay. What I do like, though, Harrison, what I can at least appreciate, if they are going to flood into Arcade and Cafe again, now it being Bunk's daycare, we see the Flores, or Terror drones, and also Hibana to open things up. Hopefully Tones chooses a different strategy this time, but at least we're seeing some good operators if they want to go for that play.
And if they do go for the play, this is the site.
True.
So maybe that'll have a different effect. But, well, Tones clearly not listening to Einstein's definition of insanity and just shooting his ex-Kairos over and over again, expecting them not to get shot. That is the 3rd batch of ex-Kairos now that he has simply shot at the... He's going to do it again.
Is he trying to bait Karn? What a genius, honestly. So Harrison and I will be organizing a boycott of this game. We will not be casting for the remainder of the rounds, as we do not feel this is a serious affair. Like, what was the play? Sadly, Tones... no, I'm not... No, I'm just gonna move on. So, see Jay now moving in, trying to destroy the shield on top of Cafe, but sadly, he detonates it a little too late, gets caught by the mute jammer, and finally, the 85-year-old menace himself, Carnage Basketball, downed outside of break room.
Why did they
Only a
not
minute
just...
left though, Harrison.
Tones could have just waited for someone to join him, just made a comment and be like, hey guys, I need to get this wall open. Can someone help me? Tried to do it himself and died. Quartz is down. But at the very least, they finish off Carnage B. They kill Tra. Mikey gets a kill on the Freak. Jay and Mr. Reed Adams are the only ones left. They'll hop in and get the res on Quartz, though, to make the man count even. So there is that. And Quartz, of course, is below with, I was going to say with nades, but he does not have nades anymore. So he is just a walking body. Walking corpse, probably, at this point, with how little HP he has left. Whitlock still a C4 in pocket. The round, probably going to spiral out of control in the next 20 seconds or so. Mikey's the man who's trying to stop the cafe push in, but all three are now stacking up on this daycare door. Reed wins that fight. Wait, he wasn't supposed to win that. The plant is going down. Jay gets the coverage kill, and now it's just Brios who looks the wrong way. What?
I don't even really...
My hands are on my head.
I don't even have a joke. Like, I can't even make a joke about that.
What do I write in my notes?
I'm glad I take simple notes. I'm glad I don't have to explain that one. So... I really don't know what to say. Like, this isn't even a bit.
Locate and defuse bombs.
So after the Tones gambit earlier on in the round, Arial Arise decided to flood upstairs or flood Arcade and Cafe through a combination of Cafe, Arcade Window, and Arcade Stairs. Which I mean, they get it to a 3v3, not a terrible position, but then just one of those rounds happen where Reed wins. Admittedly, it's a very nice shot onto a player inside of the site, and I guess they get the control they need. But given really the memorable start we had to that round, the fact that they come away with it, the victory, I mean, hats off. Hats off, because it did not seem like there was a plan ever.
Well, what should probably be a 4-4 game is now 5-3 in the favor of Arial Arise. They are, of course, as we always say, they are 1 point or 1 round away from guaranteeing at least 1 point. Reed Adams now playing a different operator. He's gone from Dokkaebi to Thatcher to now Nomad. No Thatcher will be played. Jay is on Zofia. That is not a very common sight. He's typically more of a soft support player, but Jay can land some nasty shots. I'm very excited to see what he does with that Zo duoing with Freak, and of course, with a bunk defense again, they will be staring down this shield, and it looks like they want to push in from Cafe.
Well, let's hope it goes better than last time.
Tones has the X-Kairos out. What is he doing? I got... At least some exploded this time.
I suppose. I suppose. Some of them did explode. I cannot believe it. I don't think I've ever just been silenced on a broadcast like
Mikey
that.
just ran out.
Well,
and
yeah.
Did Tones just drop? Tones is just in. He goes 1 for 1. All right. And Reed is also stuck here.
Harrison, I have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, that was gonna happen. Quartz breaking that bar. They definitely know where he is now. And yeah.
Woo,
starting off with Mikey's run out, and then Mikey, which was a good run out.
It was a good run out.
Right, because he was baiting the res. And then after a probably, well thought out, well played run out, everything just kind of devolved. Reed Adams was behind the fringe. I think the play was probably right. Tones drops, gets in sight, and Reed is supposed to assist him. And then Tones dies, and Reed is probably like, uh-oh.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
This is where we start spinning out of control. Well, I'm just glad we're not on bunk daycare anymore. You're going instead down to Throne. Hopefully, I say that, but we also had
There's still a hatch for Tones to drop.
Do you remember when we said that we felt a lot more confident that Arial Arise were able to box unemployment into theme park?
Yeah.
So anyway, Jay appears that he's going to be sticking Amaru going into this round. Very excited to see what he does with that. Hopefully, that indicates they won't be going for an arcade cafe clear again. That means we also won't see Tones dropping the hatch as Thermite as the first player into the building. But at the same time, well, I guess there's a couple players spawning over in various parts of the map. So I thought for a second it was going to be the same player, Harrison. I'm not going to lie. I got very scared.
Okay. We are in the clear, at least for now. All right.
There we go.
I was about to make a job. I was about to say Jay, however, is not in the clear because I thought he was going to die, but he does get the leadoff kill onto Mikey. A trade goes off across the map. Whitlock for Tones. Losing an Oryx for a Thermite, though. I'm sure the defense is probably pretty happy with that. The pre-fire does not land from Brios, who decides to take a 1v1 against a G8, and now it's Tra and Karn.
Tron, Karn, and even though they're in a 4v2, Arial Arise do not have a hard breacher anymore. That still makes things a little bit better. However, if you want to look, we just passed a minute into the action phase, and it is a 2v4. So even though Arial Arise do not have the Thermite, they have 9 drones on the board. Well, some of those die with Tones. Some of them did die with Tones. They have 7 drones that they could actively use. Maybe some left over by Tones that are still on the board. I'm not entirely sure. So a lot of time to gather intel, nail down these remaining site players, as well Karn and Tra. Not wanting to get too aggressive at this point. Maybe try to peek out of doorways, but retaking the top floor is pretty much out of the question.
I think the way it works, right? I think the number on the left of the drone counter is how many are out in the field.
All right.
And then the 3 is how many are in pocket. So, yeah, Tones did die with a drone in pocket, which is unfortunate. So that means it's not on the field to be watched. There's still 5 drones out there somewhere. Reed is the only one with drones in pocket. About a minute now remaining for Carnage B and Tra to try and stem the tide of Arial Arise. He does get a lot of shots onto the feet of Reed, who's now attempting to be blinded, but he's Warden! He doesn't get blinded!
Oh, no.
He kills one, Karn kills the other. They can take this round away. There's a shield!
And a C4.
There's a shield here! What are
no.
Arial Arise going to do?
I honestly don't know. I mean, Freak does have 2 Ash charges, but as I was about to say, he gets caught by an ADS. They don't have flashes to clear this anymore. Freak's certainly going to be careful. No, it does stick. Shield destroyed. Karn can still get aggressive behind the bomb chassis. Smoked by Freak. Excellent shot, but both Arial players on low HP does not matter. Wow, indeed, Courts. Freak pieces both the remaining unemployment players up. Match point for Arial.
You know, that is Freak.
That was freaky.
Can you believe that guy at one point had no eyebrows? That is crazy. Yeah, remember he completely shaved his head, including his eyebrows. It was pretty funny.
There are some things in my mind that it
Did you repress it?
Well, yeah, it just like autonomously represses it. That was one of those things.
Put it away in the vault in the Mind Palace, never to be seen again.
Yeah, it sank it to the bottom of my mind ocean.
But anyway, that guy just destroyed Carnage V. Put him in the senior living with that shot over the bomb chassis, and then unfortunately, Tra. I was about to say, I like while you were casting it, I was in my mind. I was like, it's Tra, and then he got smoked by Freak. So another bit of a weird round. A great start for Arial Arise, as unemployment kind of gave up a lot of bodies. But coming in through that execute, I guess they had no idea that Tra was Warden. If he was anyone except Warden, he would have been dead, and we would have just seen Arial Arise probably just bulldoze their way in and clap the last 2 players. But he happened to be the only guy in the game that doesn't get flashed.
And Arial are on match point, and I don't want to discredit them. You know, getting a victory, potentially in regulation. But what have been these attacks? Like, what has been happening? even in rounds where they've had success, like last round where we were kind of weirded out by the Amaru, but Jay still, you know, sends himself into break and gets 2 kills in the early round, making it a 4v2. They lost Tones essentially as like almost immediately as players started entering the building. So if that play from Jay doesn't work and the Roamers are able to fight back, you're without a hard breacher. And that is not something that has been uncommon to happen to Arial Arise in this half. It has happened multiple times. In the rounds Arial Arise have won, it's either gone well, but still had an incredibly problematic element, or just been problematic overall, and they lose.
This game is great. I love this game. Monty. I didn't even realize he's Monty.
I heard
wow.
I heard him like clomping up towards the door. I was like, I think there's
after
Monty.
these last couple rounds, I am not optimistic about what's about to happen with this Monty.
I am. My eyes are glued to the screen.
So Tones is already in. There's a barricade here, so he's probably like, oh, well, I can probably just breach, can't I? But before he can do that, it looks like the team will be occupied with this roam clear. There appears to be 3 defenders up there, I think. Right? Yes, there are 3 people on that roam. But remember, if they open the throne wall, get Monty in, clear the anchors, and just flank watch like any self-respecting team should, those roamers aren't going to have much to say about the round.
And even if they wanted to go clear out the roamers, already down to 3 drones remaining. So not only would that be problematic to clear out the roamers, but even finding some of these players in sight could be problematic. Minute 10 seconds left, and what little drones Arial Arise have to flick through some of these flank camps and also actively use at least one to find these players. Now Mikey and Whitlock, they can start getting aggressive, start moving on in. They spot one top dragon, but nobody takes any kind of damage. No shots meet their mark. Tones takes down one. Jay takes down another. Make that 2 on top dragon. Make that 3 on top dragon. Only Karn left in sight behind the throne. This seems like an open and shut case for Arial Arise in the final round. And indeed, Freak puts the final nail in the coffin.
Wow. Jay. Holy crap. A 7-4 win for Arial Arise. That was a 3-man retake onto Jay. And he destroyed every single one of them. That's why he was in Pro League at one point, ladies and gentlemen. That is Jay with 2 A's. And then from there, well, the fact that Tones got the opening kill onto Tra as well, I feel like, you know, I mean, that was the one guy in Throne, and then the Monty would move in. I feel like even if Jay just goes like 1 for 1 there, Arial Arise still have a pretty good chance to win that round. That just capped it all off. Wow, that was. It's only Playday 2.
Yeah, and that's. Listen. I might have gotten a little negative during that game, for being honest. I might have been a little mean, but that was what I can say at a bare minimum, because that was a game where Unemployment definitely looked better than we had maybe saw them in the previous week. But it was also a game where we were hyping up at the beginning, Arial Arise. Oh, they're going to a more complex map. They're going to be looking good. And then their attacking strats didn't really work the way they were intended. But, comparison...
it was entertaining.
It was entertaining. I was actually going to say, if you want to sum it up, and I think you did, now we can send it back to the desk to see how they would render a verdict on Arial Arise versus Unemployment.
Tanner, we touched on this briefly before the matchup when we were kind of talking about our predictions and how we thought it would all play out. And we talked, or you said you didn't want to make the call between, you know, who wins, who loses by like losing it for themselves because no one looks good. I correct me if I'm wrong, Tanner, but I feel like both teams did look good in this matchup. I think they both brought it to each other.
I mean, there's definitely times where I looked at Karnico and was very impressed. Specifically on their throne defenses, it was one of the highlight performances for me. And Tra, you know, picking up that 4K. I believe that was on the attack half. that he did that. And they performed really well, but at the end of the day, I don't think they were able to capitalize off of some of the mistakes that Arial were making. Arial were making quite a bit of like trading mistakes or losing their hard breach right off the bat. And I felt like Unemployment, I don't know Carnico, but I feel like Unemployment just didn't do as good of a job as they could have to punish those kind of mistakes. Other than that, Arial played one heck of a game. I really liked the standout performance coming out from this side of Tones. And Freak on the attack half specifically was really solid for Arial Rise.
Yeah, Connor, I mean, even specifically at the end there, second to last round, you know, they were up 4-2. All of a sudden it's 2-2, and it looks like you just can't get into Throne. They don't have a hard breach. There's nothing to do. And then Freak looks like he's just stuck a Dragon Door. And then just that 2K just pops one, pops the second one, and then you have a very like, we're talking about what could have been a 5-5 matchup at that point is now 6-4 and would lead them on to a 7-4 victory.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that you said there is, sure, we can say Freak did a really good job, but you said they had no hard breach. And Tanner, you praised Tones, but Tones has got to not be the first dead 3 rounds in a row.
4 entry engagements.
That's the only thing we can really say, because you just got to say it. We can be a little bit nitpicky, but you don't want your Thermite dead in less than a minute into the round. I think that's just common knowledge at this point. But overall, with how Arial Arise played, their late round was insanely strong. They've traded, they had the big step-up plays when necessary, and just being able to squeak out each round over and over again is how they got this victory. This wasn't a dominant 7-4 by any stretch of the imagination. This could have been 7-4 the other way.
I do want to kind of add one thing here too, which is the fact that Arial wins this game in regulation, getting 3 points, and Aqualix lost this game, or their game today, getting 0 points. Arial Rise now just leapfrogged Aqualix into the top 4 positions for the playoffs, putting themselves in a comfortable, I think they have a 1 point lead, which is a pretty hard thing to make up if Arial Rise went out from here.
Well, you know what? That's actually a great segue into the interview, because I can ask Courts, is that overtime loss looking a little better now 1 week in? Courts, congratulations. Big win for the boys for Arial Arise. I got to ask first and foremost, talk about Unemployment for a second. Did they bring it to you guys? Because we thought that they played a pretty good game. Did they bring it a little more than you guys might have expected?
Yeah, honestly, I thought they played a pretty good game. We went, I think, 4-2 on defense after going trio, so they really like adapted well and played well after the first 3 rounds. But yeah, we kind of just stick to our play style of just, we knew they were kind of slow, and they really brought it back on that second half of defense. So props to them.
Now, 2 weeks in, you guys have points in every game, although last week was an overtime loss. We were just talking about the points and how Arial Arise has now been able to put together enough points to leapfrog into the 4th place. Do you kind of look at those overtime losses and think, oh, we could have gotten more? Or do you maybe look at them and go, yeah, I mean, we're glad to have the point?
I mean, obviously we could have had more, but we try not to think about that, right? It's in the past, so we can't really change much about it, and we just kind of got to focus on the rest of our season. You know, whatever happened like last game, it happened, so just can't do nothing about it.
Now, even with the victory, we did notice, we've got to even sometimes criticize victories a little bit. There were little mistakes scattered throughout for Arial Arise. Is that something that you guys are actively noticing yourselves as well and trying to correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, we know we're making mistakes. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes, especially on club and on team park as well. But it feels like we're much better. I guess, like, we trust each other more. The calls are better. We play off each other, I think, better now. So I think it's a good thing, and we're just trying to improve every day, you know?
Glad to hear it. Well, thank you so much, Courts. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Can I just do a shout out real quick?
Absolutely.
I wanted to shout out Daunt, Ariel, and Smitty for the work that they put in. Our 3 support staff. Just want to thank you, because I mean, obviously they work really hard to make the season successful for us. So yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Courts.
Thank you. All right.
Always love those shout outs. You gotta thank the people around you, because I mean, no matter what sport, esport, whatever you're doing, there's always people around helping you out.
Wait a second. I don't remember Tanner getting a lot of those when he was coaching that team.
No, he goes to the enemy. I didn't want them.
I remember the big talk was just waiting for those post W stogies. So I think there was There's a little bit of talk about Tanner at the time. Okay, we are down 3 matches today. We've got 1 more to go. It's going to be, and we talked about this last week, Tanner, the highlight match of today. It's going to be Luminosity Gaming taking on Reality TV. You do not want to miss it. Go grab your snacks, go to the washroom, whatever you got to do. We'll be back in a few minutes.